Welcome back. You're watching CHA Today. I'm your host, Jennifer Gallman. We are talking with Liz Clasen-Kelly and Mike Clement about the results of a recent homeless study conducted in Charlotte. Liz, Mike, we've been talking about the study, why it was important to the city of Charlotte. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the questions that are actually on the study and why they were used to analyze this group of individuals?
Yeah, the study is actually based on research out of Boston that determined what factors made people more likely to die on the street. And we found it was things like liver and kidney disease, if folks were HIV positive, if they were elderly, and if they'd frequently been to the hospital. So a lot of the questions on the surveys focused to see if folks had those issues going on. So we would ask folks, how long had you been out on the street or in shelters? How many times have you been to the emergency room in the last 3 months? If you're sick, where do you go most often for health care? We were asking folks about how they make money. We were asking folks, were you in Charlotte, but when you last had housing? So just basic questions about health, about some demographics, and about their experience of homelessness.
Now, a lot of times I hear the word chronic homeless. What does that mean?
There's a specific HUD definition, but it essentially means if someone's been homeless more than a year or if they've had several episodes of homelessness in the last 3 years. And so we actually pre-screened folks, so we only interviewed folks that met the definition of chronic homelessness. And it's interesting because a lot of folks who are chronic, it's kind of the stereotypical image of homelessness, but it actually is only about 10% of the homeless population.
Wow, so about 10% of the entire homeless population is chronic.
Right. So yeah, we don't realize it, but the vast majority of folks who experience homelessness actually move out of homelessness within just a few months with the help of our shelter and service system.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier in the show that it was about a 3-day process. Hundreds of volunteers came out. One day was focused on training, and then they're going to use a survey, and you were going to ask some specific questions. And then the next day you just hit the streets?
We started at 6 a.m. and we all wore purple t-shirts, and we were literally all over the city, from South Charlotte to North Charlotte, all over the place, in every agency and every place where homeless folks were.
Mike, you were one of the volunteers.
I was.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience when you went out there? Were things as you expected? How were some of the people that you interviewed? Did you find out anything that you didn't think you'd know? What was your experience like?
Well, Jennifer, I signed up to go out to the camps. I'm always about learning, and most of my experiences in homelessness I learned through board meetings and visits to shelters and work that I've done through my church. And I needed to see something new, and I did. Last summer I had a chance to travel to Africa, to the Congo, and saw extreme poverty there. And what I encountered here in the camps would certainly rival anything I saw there. But we have the resources, as do those people in the camps, to be able to deal with things day to day. So that is a fundamental difference, I think, right now between our two countries. I had an opportunity to be welcomed into homes, because many of these camps are homes for these individuals for long periods of times, and so I have to thank those folks as well. One of the gentlemen who escorted me for a period of time was someone who is homeless, but had dedicated his days and his time to this very effort. I think what was really interesting for me is that of the surveys that I completed, 2 were completed in a coffee shop adjacent to South Park Mall. Now, often in Charlotte, we wouldn't think about that as being a place where you might encounter the homeless. Arguably, it's in the most affluent neighborhood, or one of the most affluent neighborhoods in our community. But these are people who actually live in that area and frequent the coffee shops. So that was something that really registered for me, and in fact I keep up with those 2 interviews pretty closely today. So I learned a lot, and I think you learn more by getting out and doing to inform. You can read, you can write your checks, you can be an advocate, but being out experience teaches you so many more things than just reading does.
Was it easy to break the ice? I imagine some interviews there might have been a little bit frustration maybe from the other person, not sure what you're going to ask, maybe unaware of your intentions completely. I'm sure you debriefed them based on what the survey said to do, but did you find it was an easy experience, or did it take a little while, and then afterwards, obviously you're keeping in touch, so you developed some type of relationship with these people?
Yeah, great question. Like meeting anybody new, it varied.
Yeah.
Some people were really very open. Some people were very cautious. Some were very skeptical that we were really there to do anything other than take a survey. In other words, that there would be results and actions taken from that. Some did not want their photographs taken. Some did. It rained one of the days that we were out, and so in order to fill out this form, you literally had to enter the home and spend time in the home. And these were largely covered tarps, a hodgepodge of things over old mattresses with people's belongings, either strung up on strings or around the edges. So it really did vary, but I'd say that for the most part, I met really bright people, people who understood the issues that they were dealing with and really wanted some help. In one case, a woman who I know as Gail was very much intrigued with what was going on with the housing issue in Ballantyne. And she knew more about it than I did. She had a borrowed paper, again, so when you're talking with individuals who are homeless, you just really have to step back and go, these are people very much like me. So that was my experience.
I attended a local church once, and they were talking specifically about individuals who are homeless. You know, people will spend some volunteer times organizing drives for food or clothes and making donations. But based on that, what they were saying, a lot of times that conversation can mean more to someone who spends a lot of time on the streets without a roof over their head and family to count on than anything. Knowing someone, you know, values their conversation and wants to spend some time just in fellowship can make a huge difference. So I think maybe an indirect result of some of the survey research is some fellowship and friendships that were created between the volunteers and the people interviewed.
Unfortunately, all I can say is I still keep up with my 2 interviews at the coffee shop because I see them more regularly. But I think relationships are very, very powerful, and Liz certainly knows that maybe more strongly than I do, but I absolutely agree with that.
And I think again, an indirect effect of the survey, I was amazed because I also was out at the camps, and I've worked at the Urban Ministry Center and volunteered there for 13 years, and I know a lot of the folks who come there, and I was amazed to go out into the camps and meet people that I'd never seen before that don't come in to Center City for services. And their experience, I mean, we were met with a lot of kindness and a lot of hope that someone said, I just went and visited a camp yesterday of someone that we had met during the survey time, and he said, why do you care? Why are you coming back out here? And you know, that sense of hope that maybe we really are going to do something to end chronic homelessness. Maybe there is a chance that folks really are caring, that something's going to be different. And we're talking about people who, you know, in some cases have lived outside for, you know, in some cases years. So I'm very hopeful about what this survey can mean, and now that we have the specific information and the specific people, now we get to develop the specific solution to helping them end their homelessness.
Well, I'm interested in finding out what were the results of this survey. We're going to pause for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear about the results of the homeless survey. Stay tuned.